Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Noobie Photographer Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Holritz. Looks like my levels are down a little bit low. I need to speak up a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, hello, welcome back to the Noobie Photographer Podcast. I am your host, Nathan Holritz. It's good to have you here today. Happy Thursday to those of you that may be live streaming with us. And please don't be shy. Join in the conversation, ask comments. Ask questions. You can also comment on your personal experience around this topic that we're going to get into, and would love for you just to be part of the conversation. For those of you that are not live streaming with us, you're listening to the audio version after the fact, please come join us. If you follow us at Noobie Podcast, Noobie Podcast on Instagram, you can keep up to date with the upcoming live stream schedule and come be part of it. We'd love to have you here. On that note, I want to introduce a brand new guest here on the Noobie Podcast. Britney Smith is here with me today. Britney, thank you for coming to hang out. And
How are you?
I'm doing good. And I know that we were chatting for just a couple of minutes beforehand, but I have to say, and I said this to you beforehand, I'll reiterate it now. Your spirit, your energy is so great. Even just your smile as we sign on here now is so awesome. It's so genuine and so bright. And so I have to give you props for that. I love the energy that you're bringing to the photography industry.
Oh, thank you.
Well, and I also want to give you props too, because you're going to be speaking at the Noobie Photographer Conference. And for anybody who's curious about this, if you go to noobieconference.com, we've got about a month now until the conference. If you haven't signed up for a ticket yet, make sure that you get them. There are not a ton of them available. But I'm just going to pull up the site, Britney, and we'll just briefly talk about this really, really quickly here. Because, and let's see, am I sharing? Let me make sure I share the screen here. There we go. All right, so anybody listening in, if you go to Noobie, Noobie conference.com, you can learn about all the details for this conference that we're hosting in Chattanooga, January 10th and 11th. It is obviously for new photographers in the first 3 to 4 years of business. And you can see the list of teachers here on the screen, and Britney is certainly one of those teachers. And I think it's a cool opportunity, Britney, to have you on the show and let those that may be curious, they're still on the fence, like, do I go to the Noobie conference or not?
I'm so excited.
Once they get to hear you talk today, maybe that'll send them over the edge. They'll be like, oh, I have to be there. So the pressure is on.
Okay.
I'm totally kidding. Totally kidding. I appreciate you being part of that conference. It's a really exciting new project.
It's no problem. I'm super excited about it.
Well, and again, for those of you listening in, just make sure that you go to noobieconference.com. I've got that popped up on the screen there as well. And you can learn more and get those tickets while they are still available. Britney, before we get into the conversation today, and we've got a pretty interesting topic at hand, will you just briefly introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Britney Smith. I am from Southern Louisiana, where I live with my husband, and we have 4 beautiful babies. I've been a photographer for almost 15 years, where I specialize in high school seniors and child portraiture.
Well, you've just got that introduction nailed. That's great. All right, so I want to bring up your website, and I popped up the URL on screen while you were talking there, but I'm going to jump over to your website. For anybody listening in, if you go to GLAM labstudio.com, you can check out Britney's work there, and then also follow her at the Glam Lab Photography on Instagram. Of course, we'll link to both in the show notes at newbiepodcast.com. But Britney, just lovely, lovely work here.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. And again, for those of you that aren't familiar with Britney's work, make sure that you go follow her there on Instagram and check out her website as well. We've been doing this series now for a little while at the Noobie Podcast called I Wish I Knew. And what I'm doing is having photographers on the show sharing a big idea or principle that they wish they knew more about when they first got started in photography. Hopefully to alleviate some unnecessary stress for new photographers as they're starting out. And I'm curious what that big idea is for you, Britney.
Okay, for me, it is the value of my business is not determined by critics, and I have the power to make it whatever I want it to be.
Well, and this is something that you shared with us in advance, and I think it's a relevant conversation, certainly regardless of the times, but maybe more so even now than ever. Obviously, social media is not a new thing. It's been around for a while. And so exposure to other people's opinions about what it is that we're doing as we're sharing our lives and our businesses with them is a more commonplace thing, right? And it's very easy for somebody to jump on and comment, whether in a post or shoot us a text after the fact or whatever it might be, and to share that opinion. Is that something that you faced quite a bit of as you were getting started in your business?
It was. When I first started my business, we didn't really have anyone that I could go to. So a lot of things that I know now, I had to figure out through trial and error. So I did face that a lot, and I there were a lot of things that I needed to fix within my business. So I do value the opinion of others, but I quickly realized that I can make this business whatever I want it to be or need it to be. That I didn't have to stay within a certain guidelines to fit the needs of others, if that makes
It totally makes sense.
sense.
And I love the way that you phrase that. What do you think the tendency is? And I've certainly kind of fallen into the trap of this as well. But what is the tendency for us, not just as photographers, but just as human beings, to let ourselves get caught up in that outside critique coming from other people who in many cases unfortunately don't even have like full context about what they're talking about.
Right.
They don't have experience, personal experience that they're speaking from. They just feel like they can throw their opinion out there. But why is it so easy to get sucked in?
It's so easy to get sucked in because truly, like I said in the beginning, there are a lot of things that I had to learn through trial and error. And for me, I thought that I literally had to do what others wanted me to do. I didn't realize that, this is your business, this is your baby, and you can mold it into whatever you need it to be. So it's kind of hard. You can lose focus, you can get distracted by
Mm-hmm.
the things that others tell you or what you need to be do in
Yep.
your business, or just quickly take the opinions of others if you don't realize that you need to stay focused and stay on the right track of your business.
And again, really well put. And I have a follow-up question or two about that, but I want
Mhm.
to let you kind of share the big principles that you've learned from this process of selectively paying attention to maybe the outside critiques that are relevant, but otherwise setting those aside and focusing, as you were talking about, on your business plan. So you mentioned to me before we got started that there's kind of three specific ways that you applied this to your business. Will you share those ideas with us?
Yes. So the biggest thing is, like I said, I needed to stay focused. It's so easy to peep over into others' lane and say, "Oh, well, I can do what they're doing, and it may work in my business," or maybe these things will work for me. But you don't truthfully know if this could work for your business. So if you stay focused and don't get distracted, then these things can, help you along the way. And then secondly, I had to add value to my business. A lot of you guys may have heard my story before, but in 2013, I had to make a big transition in my business. I had to figure out how to make this business work for me. And in doing so, I had to sit down and think about who it was that I was trying to cater to. What did I want my brand to look like? Um, what type of client I wanted to attract. So I really had to take a step back and look at the overall picture. And also, not only that, I had to think about the experience that I wanted to offer to my clients. It's so easy to get trapped into being what they call a shoot and burn photographer or just doing it just because. But I had to take in perspective that I needed this business to work and I needed to get in the mind frame of being focused and adding value to my business so that it can work the way that I need it to be.
That's great. Okay, so number one is stay focused. And I'm going to come back and probably ask a
Mhm.
follow-up question or two here as
Yes.
well. But number one is to stay focused. The importance of staying focused on the business plan. Number two is the significance of adding value. And then what's the number three?
Okay, number three was creating brand awareness. I needed to strategically think about ideas of what would help me stand out from my competitors. What did I want to do differently in my business that would help me set apart from others in my area? And with doing that, I have set an expectation for clients that come to me. They want the experience, they want the value, they want to feel like they're welcome and like they're family. So strategically coming up with ideas that could work out for your business and creating that brand awareness could really help you with this concept.
Okay, good. So I want to just jump back then to these 3 points. Number one, stay focused. And I love the way that you said, not to peep over. I love that phrase,
Yes.
peep over, not to peep over into other people's lanes. And I think that's
Yes.
really important. What do you think? Where's the balance between being aware of what's going in the marketplace, including generally speaking, the behavior of other photographers, but being aware of the marketplace, and even going to the extent of keeping our minds open to feedback that is actually relevant to our business.
Hmm.
But then simultaneously also, as much as we need to, keeping our blinders on, like really head down focused on the business plan that we intended to create and implement. What's the balance there?
Okay, so I really think that you have to, again, look at overall what do you want your business to be, or what do you want it
Mm,
to look like
yep.
when you're peeping over into others' lanes. It's easy to get distracted because if they're doing something that doesn't align with your overall goal or your overall brand intention, then it's so easy to steer off into, the wrong direction.
Yeah,
But if you stay focused, there's nothing wrong with implementing things that they do. Just make sure that it aligns with what you're trying to do
that's it.
overall.
That, and again, so brilliantly put, and that's exactly it. If I think part of the problem, and I can speak from personal experience as well as a wedding photographer, I shot for about 10 years, and at least at the outset, I don't know that I really had a focused idea, a set of
Hmm.
goals in mind for my business. This is the business that I'm trying to create, and here's the process that I'm going to go about getting there. It was kind of random and haphazard. I'm just trying to make it work and to
Yes.
try to get gigs. But I think this highlights one of the most important principles of establishing and running a healthy photography business, which is
Yes.
determine in advance what it is that you're trying to
Hmm.
achieve. And maybe you can comment on this briefly, but my understanding of that approach would be, one, to be clear about what it is that you want as an individual out of life,
Yes.
right? I know that's a big
Yes.
conversation, but
Yes.
naturally the business should support what it is that we're trying to do personally as an individual, as a human being.
Yes.
So being clear about that, but then creating that set of overarching goals, the big picture goals that drive what we do as a business. And like you said, that helps us filter out what's irrelevant. Is that kind of how you,
Right.
you approached it?
Yes, that's definitely how I approached it. And then even now in business, there's nothing wrong with adding things because the photography industry is forever changing. So you do have to keep up with the things that are going on now,
Hmm.
but just make sure that whatever you are implementing, or when you come back to the drawing board, like for me, January is the biggest month for me because I'm gonna actually say December, because during December, the end of the year, I think about what do I want to implement going forward. And I make sure that it still aligns with what I'm with my intentions,
Hmm.
but I just make sure that I add to that.
And again, I love this. And this is, in fact, we could literally just park on this one point, and our listeners
Yes.
already have tons of very practical value from this. But I love this. It's not about never changing or shifting or adapting. It's just being
Right.
clear about the intentions up front, the big picture goals up front. And then, as you said, we also have to maintain a certain level of awareness of what's going on in the marketplace, the way that tech is changing, the marketplace is changing, communication styles are changing, whatever it might be. We
Right.
have to be aware of those, and we tweak and adjust, but
Hmm.
simultaneously make sure that it still aligns with our intentions. I love how you put that.
Yes.
I think it's beautifully put. Let me jump to the second point. You said
Okay.
that we need to create or add value to our business. How does that relate
Mhm.
to, I guess, essentially ignoring the outside critiques?
Okay, so I don't know about you, but sometimes you will get those clients that will say, "Well, this photographer said that they will only charge me this," or they will give me all of this for this price. You will have those clients that will try to price match you, but you
Mm.
have to be very intentional of adding value. This is what I do. This is why I do it. For example, with me, in-person sales is one of my biggest things that I do.
Yeah, you're
So
going to be speaking
that
about that at the conference.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
So
excited for that.
I I utilize that to add value to my business because initially when I started offering IPS, there were rarely any photographers in my area offering that. And in doing so, I found products that also aligns with what I was doing. So I don't offer everything that other photographers may offer, or other photographers in my area may offer. Or sometimes they will say, well, if I go to this photographer, then they will give me this. You just have to make sure that you're staying aligned and you add that value um to your business. And for me, that was one of the biggest things, that the IPS was the biggest change for me and what helped me to add value, because not only is it um, is it adding value to my business, but I'm creating something for my clients. I'm giving them tangible products to hold on to for generations to
Mm.
come.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of photographers tend to forget that the reason why we're doing this is to preserve those memories. And I want you to have this to hold on to.
Is there, so I guess really, if I'm hearing and understanding what you're saying correctly, is this more
Mhm.
about making sure that the value that we're adding to our business matches the prices we're charging? Or am I
Correct.
thinking about it? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. That's good. And that's a great point too, because it can be very easy, especially as a new photographer, just to kind of come up randomly with a price
Yes.
or set of prices and
Yes.
put them out there and
Yes.
not actually add the value that matches with that price point that we're charging.
Right. And that's what I did when I first started out. I literally just pulled numbers out of thin air and
Yeah.
like honestly. So,
Hmm.
and then I just kind of compared that to other photographers in my area, but I had to realize that, this is what I need to make in order to sustain or to be able to provide for my household. And not only that, like adding value versus like with money, but also adding value with experience. Like when your clients come to you, they're going to continue to come back because of the experience. And I think that as well adds value to your business.
Okay. So number one, stay focused, and a kind of subtext to that is make sure to have a clear set of goals that you're actually an intention or set of intentions. I like that
Hmm.
word that you used. In order to help you stay focused and use that as a filter. Number two is I'm kind of shifting the way that I initially wrote it down. It's to match the value, or excuse me, match the price with the value that you're adding or that you're
Yes.
giving to your client. And then number three is to create brand awareness. And again, will you relate this idea of creating brand awareness to the topic at hand, which is learning how to kind of avoid the outside critiques? How does that relate?
Yes. So creating brand awareness is being clear on what does your brand look like? Who are you trying to cater to? What does it look like overall? For me, I don't know if you guys may have noticed, but I cater to brown high school photographers. I mean high school seniors.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that because in the area that I'm in, a lot of those girls would just get their friends to take their pictures, or their mom bought a nice camera, so they're going to get their mom to take the pictures, or they just don't see themselves enough to want to document the milestone. So for me, I created this brand to help them feel that you are welcome. This is a part of my brand. I do want you to come and see yourself and do all the things and document your milestone. So just strategically thinking about or putting ideas together that would help people recognize you, or creating that awareness to your brand.
And so the word I wrote down as you were talking there is clarity. So what we're
Hmm.
talking about is creating brand awareness, but ultimately it's about brand clarity,
There it
which
is.
naturally helps us filter out the outside voices that are irrelevant. Is that right?
Yes, yes, that's true.
That's that's good. That's good. Okay. Well, so for anybody listening in, if you didn't take notes, of course, we'll put these talking points in the show notes at newbiepodcast.com. Brittany, this has been super practical. And I
Yes.
love that. It's in fact one of the main reasons that we're having you as a speaker at the conference is you and I had the opportunity to do a Boca podcast episode together as well. And your
Yes.
communication and teaching style, I just love. It's very straightforward, to the point, easy to follow and understand, and
Yes.
very much the same again today. So I really appreciate that. Thanks for being willing to share. And will you just
Thank
remind
you.
our listeners one more time where they can find and follow you online as well?
Yes, follow at the Glam Lab Photography on Instagram and Facebook, and my website is glamlabstudio.com.
Perfect. And I popped that up there on screen. Little Christmas music, style music playing in the background. Tis the season, right?
Yes.
Brittany, I really appreciate it. You've definitely brought wonderful gifts to our listeners today and to our community. Thanks for making time for all of us.
Thank you.